Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm excited because I want to talk about a new group, a new program that I'm starting, and I can't wait to tell you more about the details and kind of talk about why I'm doing it. And to piggyback kind of on the episode that I talked about last week, which was about my own kind of period of transition and figuring out what's next. So I'm so excited to announce that I am starting my own mastermind for the first time. I've been wanting to do this for years, from like the beginning of when I started my programs. I really was thinking about these small group kind of mastermind programs where you are surrounded by a community of high achieving people and you are helping each other go through whatever it is that you're going through to reach a goal that you want to reach. And I've thought about different iterations of what I want to do. And as I'm going through a period myself of transition, this has just been the most aligned thing that has really sparked so much joy and motivation in me to create this. And so I'm so excited to talk about my mastermind. It's called Your Next Act Mastermind, and it is for 10 high achieving women. So I limit it to 10 people who are sort of done playing all the roles that they've told they should be playing. They're sort of done with this life that everybody else has told them they should want. They've checked all the boxes. They've gotten the grades, the diplomas, the titles, the accolades. They've, been quote unquote successful. And yet here we are kind of feeling burned out and unfulfilled and really questioning like, this can't be it. There is a calling within you for something bigger, something better, something different. And it is so easy to actually hear that call, but it is so hard to answer it because the questions come up with, well, what's next? And what do I do? And do I just burn it all down, or do I start over, or do I push through and just suck it up and be grateful? And I think for so many of us, we spin in this kind of what traditionally people like to call midlife crisis, or just this kind of awakening of like, what is this next version of me? What do I actually want in my life? What is important? And for so many of us, we don't have the space or the time to really slow down and listen to that and answer that call. And that is what I want to do with this group of amazing women that will create kind of this community and sisterhood that is helping each other move through this transition period, through this life, and figure out what is it that you want and how do you go after it and how do you create it and how do you step into that newer version of yourself when it's scary and other people don't understand, and it can feel threatening, and there's so much fear and grief around the loss of what you thought you wanted and that future and that identity. So I am starting a mastermind that starts September 1st. It will be 6 months. And the best part, which I'm so excited about, it is that it includes a 3-day in-person retreat. I have done these types of retreats, and when I say they are life-changing, it is not just some catchphrase. There is something about the energy of being in a room together and working on your problems with other really powerful people. And it is something, like I said, I've been wanting to do. I've been wanting to do something in person for a very long time, but it just never felt right. It never felt like something I really wanted to teach on. And this now just feels incredible. And I'm so excited to be with a group of people working towards this answer, this really big answer of who am I becoming? What is next in my identity, in the next evolution of me, and helping people really step into a more powerful, more aligned version of who they want to be as they go through this next chapter of their life. So a couple things I want to talk about though, because I just did an episode, if you listened to last week's, about how I'm going through this period of transition, and I'm going through this period of figuring out what is next and giving myself time and space to figure out, what does that next chapter look like? Does it include anything that's in this chapter, or is it completely new? Do I start something that I've never done before? Do I stick with the skill sets I know? All of these questions are coming up. And so I know that it might seem funny, or you might be questioning like, well, how are you going to lead a mastermind, or why are you doing this when you yourself are going through this period of transition? And that's a great question. And I'm glad you asked it. And one of the funny things is I caught myself after I'd recorded the episode last week, I knew I was going to record that episode and then I was going to record this. And there was, the voice of like the marketing bros, the people that you learn how to do business, quote unquote, the right way, that tends to creep in. And the voice was saying like, are you crazy? Don't tell people that you have doubts or you don't know what you want next, or you don't know what the next chapter really looks like. You have to show certainty, and you have to show confidence, and you have to show that you know what you're doing, and blah, blah, blah. And you have to like sell them on the fact that you are, the foremost expert. And if you've been around me, you know that that is just not my shtick at all. That is not the way that I show up. That is not my life. That is not my business. And I will never market like that. And one of the things I really pride myself on is just being as honest as I possibly can. As, I know it's a buzzword, quote unquote, authentic as I possibly can. So I will never lie about where I am at, what I'm feeling. I will never lie about the messiness of the human experience or my own experience. I will never put on a front that I have it all figured out and that I have some master plan. And I think if you find any coach that is doing that, I would question it. I'm not saying that there aren't experts in certain fields. Of course there are. But I find that the persona of somebody that has all the answers, that has the perfect life, that has everything figured out, is always a facade, because that's just not any human experience ever. And I'm no different. And so if you are looking for that guru, I can promise you I'm not it. I'm not your coach, the type of coach for you, because I will never show up in that way to try to, if you get a false sense of security from that like I have all the answers and I'm going to be able to, I don't know, parlay that into you, that is not the way that I coach. And I don't think that is the most helpful, because I am not the one with the answers. You are. I can't have the answers for your life. You do. But I do have the questions. And I think that is why I'm so drawn to doing this, because this isn't my first rodeo. This is not my first evolution of myself. This is not my first identity death. The first big one, major one that I had was when I quit my job as a lawyer. And that was an extremely painful transition for me. That was the best description of identity death. It felt like a death. And there was years of struggling that I did with that transition, because I was filled with so much shame and so much grief and so much guilt. And I really sat in a lot of unnecessary pain, so much regret, and taking on other people's opinions and thinking I was doing something wrong. And I was really stumbling my way through, I know this is not right. And I'm so proud of myself for even allowing that voice to come through and lead me. And yet it felt as though it's like you're walking through the mud, carrying these 10-pound bags in each arm. Like I'm just trudging through this muck. And every step felt so hard, and it took so long. And it really took me years to kind of go through that full transition of who I had been as, this type A+ student, lawyer, successful in the eyes of society, but deeply unhappy, to who I was becoming. And I think because I was trying to outrun a lot of that shame and that grief, because I couldn't face myself, I jumped into a lot of things that still weren't aligned for me, but just because I needed to find something quickly. And I wanted to prove that I was still good enough. And I wanted to prove that I was still a success. And I wanted people to see that, like, I'm not worthless and I am still a good person, or whatever BS my brain was kind of feeding me. I kept jumping into business after business that I didn't even care about or I didn't want to do, but I just needed something to be able to be like, see, look, I'm still worthy. I'm still productive. And it wasn't through many more iterations of this kind of evolution of myself when I did find coaching and I did find mindset work, where I released a lot of the shame and I released a lot of the grief, and I processed a lot of the grief, and I released a lot of my attachments to my identities, and I allowed myself to play and to explore and to create a business that I actually loved. And so I say this because as I'm going through this, each transition for me has become so much easier, so much lighter, so much funner, right? When I've let go the need of beating myself up, of being what everybody else wants me to be. And so while, yes, I am also going through a transition, I'm not going through the same transition that likely you are if you're going through this for the first time. I sort of liken it to, like if you have a personal trainer and you're new to a health journey, your trainer might be training for their first bodybuilding competition, let's say. And so they are also kind of learning a new nutritional plan, and they're learning a new workout regimen to, get shredded or whatever. Just because they are learning that does not mean that they haven't sort of mastered where you're at. They don't have the tools to help you where you're starting on your nutrition journey or on your exercise journey, right? It's sort of the same thing. I also think of it like my coach, the person that I studied under, she used to she has like an analogy for when you're going for any goal, or when you're doing anything new, is like you're pushing off on this island that you are comfortable on, that and you're trying to get to this other island that is your new goal, that in this case is your new identity, is the thing that you want. And in between, you have to go through the river of misery, as she calls it, right? It's like that is the hard part, is that, and there's no other way but through, right? Is like that is where a lot of the fear and the doubt and the stress and the frustration and the negative emotions and all of that comes before you can get to this place where you have this either new goal or new identity or habit or whatever it is for you, right? So I am in the river of misery right along with you. The difference is like I'm floating on a life boat, right? I'm just like sort of allowing this river to take me. I'm rowing. Whereas a lot of people I see that come to me that are in these places of transition are drowning, are just kind of panic splashing in the water. And my goal with this mastermind is to just give you a hand into the lifeboat, is to help you come in to say like, hey, we can ask these big questions. We can sit with this unknown. We can sit with the uncertainty. We can invite it in. We can get really fun and creative with it. We don't need all this suffering. We don't need to, make it harder than it is. We don't need to add more to our own pain. And so that is why I feel even more equipped to do this work right now, because I find myself sitting and answering these questions, and I find myself doing these exercises and really opening my mind to ways I'm so in it that it is really understandable. Like I think sometimes, like when I think back, when I talk to people that were like where I was as a lawyer, I'm so far removed at this point that sometimes it becomes harder. Like I know what you went through, but I haven't been in that for about 10 years now, right? Whereas with this, I feel like I'm in it. I get it. I have the same exact thoughts, the same exact fears. My brain is freaking out just as much as anybody else is. And so because I can watch it, because I can see it, and I know how to sort of calm myself down and calm my own nervous system down, I have the tools to help you do the same thing. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to lean into this is because I wanted to be in a community as I go through this with other people that are going through this, that understand the feelings of this when other people maybe around you don't. And I think one of the other main reasons why this is exactly the time I wanted to do this is because I know how important it is to have a community in these moments of deep transformation, in these big transitions. I know how hard it is when the day-to-day people do not understand what you're going through, when people look at you and think like you should just be grateful. You have everything you wanted. You got the thing that you were going through, whether that's you got the job, whether you, like I see so many people that are retiring or retiring early, and it sounds like such a great thing, or they're taking a sabbatical and it sounds so wonderful, but they don't know inside that you're like gripped with fear and that you are paralyzed and you can't enjoy it because you don't know what you want to do next, and you don't know what this means about you, and you don't know what identity you're really embodying. And so I know how helpful it is to watch and be with other people in that time. And I know for me, as I talk about this transition, I know for me that whatever I do in my next iteration will absolutely involve building community. One of the biggest things that I have become clear on, and I think that has sort of pushed me into this time of transition and transformation, is that while I love coaching and I believe that there's so much accountability we get to take for our own lives, and there's so much change that we get to create in our own lives. I have seen the power that community creates in people's lives. I've seen it from the communities that I've grown up in a culture that is much more community-based than the West tends to be. I've also seen it just within coaching, which is why I tend not to do one-on-one coaching. I tend to do group coaching because I can see the power in seeing other people's lives and having their support and not walking through these things alone. And I think when you're going through something as big as these transitions are, and you are dealing with, like I say, really heavy things like grief and shame and these big dreams that scare you and fear, the worst thing that you can do is do it alone, because your brain will convince you that it's too much, that it's too hard, that you can't do it, and you will give up. Whereas simply just being in a community with other people that are doing the same thing shows you what's possible, shows you how much is possible. And so I know that as I go through this, I don't know exactly if my next thing is going to be this, and I, grow this group, and maybe I do it and I fall so in love with it that it becomes like a calling, and maybe I don't. Maybe I do it once and I realize like it was fantastic. It was a great experience, but it has helped me kind of uncover what I actually want. Whatever it is, I know that for me, community is just a huge part of what is next. And so I'm leaning into that with this. I want to start with this group and build a very intentional group of 10 incredible women to go through this with and to learn with and to explore with. And so that is what I'm going to do for the next 6 months. And I would love to invite you to join me if any of what I've talked about really like sounds like where you're at, if it resonates. You can go to quitterclub.com/mastermind and get all the information there. I will tell you, it is 6 months. It is both group coaching, and every month you get a one-on-one kind of deep dive with me. It is a 3-day retreat in beautiful sunny California, Southern California, and a bunch of other stuff, Voxer support. It is the most high-touch program I've done. It is the most I will be involved with people, because I am set on reducing the amount of time that you struggle through this phase, taking it from years and years to a couple of months to help you get the clarity that's there, that I know is there, to help you understand how much power you have, to help you reinvent that identity so you can let go of all of the crap that you don't want anymore and not carry it around with you year after year, so you can step into who it is you want to be. Because I promise you, the world needs that. There's so much power in that. There's so much beauty in that. And so many of us are benefited by people stepping into that. And so I want to help you do that. If that sounds like something you want, join me. Like I said, there are only 10 spots, and it does start in September. So I don't know when you're listening to this, but make sure you go to quitterclub.com/mastermind and join us there. And I will be back next week for another episode that will likely be just focused on mindset stuff, but I wanted to kind of take these last 2 episodes to talk about transitions and transformations and this new opportunity, and I hope you will join me. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.